Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. If you're here, you're probably as fascinated by the progress in AI as I am. But sometimes all the hype around chatbots kind of makes you wonder, are we really getting closer to true intelligence? The kind that can actually think like we do. So today we're going to try to cut through some of that hype and look at a new way to assess AI progress.
That sounds promising.
Yeah, I think so.
I think a lot of people are interested in this question right now.
I think they are. So we're going to be digging into something called the ARC AGI2 test.
Okay.
And we'll be looking at, first of all, what makes it different from just, judging the chatbot's performance. Then we're going to see what kind of results current AI models are getting on this test. Some of them might surprise you. And then finally, what does all of this actually tell us about where we are in developing real AGI, artificial general intelligence? Oh, and one more thing before we jump in. I could really use your support over on YouTube. We're trying to reach 100 self-subscribers, and it would be huge to hit that milestone. So if you're enjoying these deep dives, please consider subscribing.
Absolutely.
Now, it's like AGI. It's really the holy grail of AI research, right? Creating AI that can truly think like a human.
Yeah. I mean, that's the ultimate goal,
right?
To create something that is as intelligent, if not more so than we are.
Exactly.
But it raises a really, really interesting question. How do we measure progress? How do we know if we're actually getting closer?
Yeah. And for a while, we were sort of caught up in how well an AI could hold a conversation, the whole chatbot phenomenon.
Right.
But it became pretty clear that just being able to chat, even convincingly, doesn't really equal intelligence, does it?
No, not really. Not at all.
And so the folks at the ARC Prize Foundation, they developed this new test, ARC AGI2, to really get at the heart of what makes intelligence tick. And what's really cool about it is that for us humans, the tasks in this test seem pretty straightforward. But for AI, even the most sophisticated AI, it's proving to be incredibly difficult.
Yeah, there was even an earlier version of this test, just ARC AGI.
Oh, right.
And it was solved by OpenAI's O3.
Yeah, it was a big deal.
It was a big deal. But it showed that test wasn't quite challenging enough.
Yeah, it needed more.
So they had to come up with something more demanding.
Right, and that's where the ARC AGI2 came from. So what are some of the things that make this new version so different, so much harder for the AIs to crack?
Well, I think one of the key things, and this is really important, is that it's not just about whether the AI can solve the problem.
Okay.
It's also about how efficiently it does it.
Ah, I see.
So they're measuring the resources used, the computational power, how much time does it take?
So it's not just about getting to the finish line. It's about how you run the race.
Exactly. Because if you can just throw, a ton of computing power at a problem, you might eventually get the answer, but is that real intelligence?
Right. You might just be brute forcing your way through it.
Exactly.
But if you can do it and you can do it efficiently, that's a whole different story.
That's right.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and another really crucial difference with ARC AGI2 is that it really focuses on the AI's ability to adapt.
To adapt.
Yeah, adapt to new situations.
Look.
So they're not giving the AI things that it's already been trained on.
Ah, that's smart.
It's all about, novel situations, things that it's never seen before. And that's really getting at that core ability to reason. To think on your feet, not just to recall patterns you've already memorized.
Right. It's like being thrown into a new environment and seeing how you cope.
Exactly.
How you figure things out.
Exactly.
Okay, so measuring efficiency, testing adaptability. What else?
Well, this test, it uses these really complex visual puzzles.
Oh, visual puzzles. Interesting.
Yeah, they require the AI to recognize patterns.
Okay.
And then based on those patterns, to generate solutions on a grid.
Like a visual maze or something.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Okay.
And this is really getting at a fundamental part of intelligence, the ability to understand and work with abstract visual information.
Right. It's like humans are really good at that. Like we see a pattern, we kind of intuitively understand it.
Right.
And then we can use that to, solve problems.
Exactly.
So they're really pushing the AIs with these visual puzzles.
They are. And to make it even harder and to make sure that they're not just getting lucky with some brute force approach, the test limits the computing power the AI can use.
Okay, so they're really putting the squeeze on them.
Yeah, they're forcing them to come up with smarter, more efficient methods.
Well, right,
Yeah.
because true intelligence, that's about doing more with less, right? Not just about having more power to throw at a problem.
That's right.
Okay, so we've got efficiency, adaptability, complex visual puzzles, limited computing power, anything else.
One more thing, and this is really interesting, is that the test requires the AI to explain the patterns it identifies in real time.
Oh, wow.
So it can't, store the information and then go back and look at it later.
Right.
It has to reason and explain as it's going.
So it's like thinking out loud.
Exactly.
So you can really see like its thought process unfolding.
Yeah, and that gives you a much better sense of whether the AI is actually understanding the problem or whether it's just, stumbled upon a solution by chance.
Right. It's like showing your work in math class.
Exactly.
Okay, so this ARC AGI2 test, it sounds like a real doozy.
Yeah.
But what are the results? Like, how are the AIs actually doing on it?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. The average human score on this test is about 60%.
60%, okay.
But when they put some of the most advanced, what they call reasoning-based AI models through this test, the scores were shockingly low.
Really?
Yeah, we're talking like 1% to 1.3% for models like OpenAI's O1 Pro and DeepSeek's R1.
Wow, that is a big difference.
It's a huge difference.
So even the AIs that are specifically designed for this kind of reasoning task, they're really struggling.
They are. And even OpenAI's O3, which, as we mentioned, did pretty well on the original ARC AGI. Even that one only achieved about 4% on ARC AGI2.
4%?
Yeah. And the really crazy part is that it reportedly cost something like $200 per task for O3 to reach that 4%.
$200 just for one try.
Yeah.
And it only got 4% right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what does that tell us? I mean, that's pretty telling, isn't it?
It is. It tells us that, these current deep learning models, they're incredibly good at recognizing patterns in the data they've been trained on. But when it comes to this kind of abstract reasoning, this ability to adapt to completely new situations, they're really hitting a wall.
It's like they're great at memorizing the textbook, but they can't really solve the problems that aren't in the textbook.
Exactly.
So what do these surprisingly low scores,
right,
what do they actually tell us about where we are in AI development as a whole?
I think they point to some pretty fundamental limitations in today's AI.
Okay, like what?
Well, we're seeing that they really struggle to generalize.
Generalize, meaning?
Meaning to take what they've learned in one context and apply it to something new and different. And that's a big deal because that's a core part of what makes us intelligent. We can learn something in one situation and then use that knowledge to solve a problem in a completely different situation.
Right, we can connect the dots.
Exactly.
And the AIs are having trouble doing that.
They are, and there also seems to be this lack of what we call common sense.
Common sense.
Yeah, that kind of basic understanding of how the world works, the kind of things that we humans just pick up naturally.
Right.
The AIs, they don't seem to have that.
So it's like they're missing some of the building blocks, the fundamental building blocks of intelligence.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. And also, and this might be surprising to some people, they seem to lack that spark of creativity.
Creativity?
Yeah, when they're faced with a truly novel problem, something that requires a new approach, a new way of thinking, they just don't seem to be able to come up with it.
So it's like they can follow the recipe, but they can't improvise.
Exactly.
They can't come up with their own recipe.
That's right. And ultimately, I think these findings really underscore the need for a different approach to AI development. We need to focus on creating AI that can reason in a more flexible and efficient way.
More flexible, more efficient.
Yeah.
That actually reminds me of something that Greg Kamrat, one of the co-founders of ARC Prize, said.
Oh, yeah.
He said that intelligence isn't just about whether you can solve a problem or get a high score on a test. Mm-hmm. It's also about how efficiently you can learn to do those things and then apply that knowledge to new situations.
Right.
It's like, it's not just about the destination, it's about the journey.
Exactly.
And then how efficiently you can travel that journey.
That's right. So the question isn't just, can the AI do it, but also how efficiently can it do it?
At what cost?
Yeah.
At what cost?
And speaking of cost, the ARC Prize Foundation, they've actually put their money where their mouth is.
They have.
They've launched a competition, a pretty significant one, with the prize of $700,000.
Wow. That's a lot of money.
It is. And the challenge is to create an AI that can achieve an 85% score on ARC AGI2 while keeping the cost per task below $0.42.
Wow.
And remember, O3, which only got 4%, it costs $200 per task.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a pretty tall order.
It is. It's a huge challenge.
It really is.
And the deadline is December 5th, 2025.
So the clock is ticking.
It is. So for those of you listening out there, why should you care about all of this? Well, if you're really interested in understanding how AI is progressing and not just getting caught up in the hype, this ARC AGI2 test, it gives us a much clearer picture.
Yeah.
It shows us where the real challenges are, where we still need to make some major breakthroughs.
Exactly. Because, I mean, let's be honest, there's been a lot of excitement around AI lately, and rightfully so. I mean, it's an amazing field.
Oh, yeah.
But I think it's important to remember that we're still a long way from creating AI that can truly think like a human.
Right. And this test really drives that point home.
It does.
It does. And, as we move forward, I think it's worth thinking about what it's going to take to bridge that gap.
Yeah.
What are the fundamental changes we need to make in the way we design and develop AI?
Yeah.
Maybe we need to move beyond our current deep learning approaches.
Maybe.
Maybe we need to find entirely new ways for AI to represent knowledge, to learn, to solve problems. It's a big question.
It is.
But it's a really important one to consider.
It is.
So that's something for all of you to ponder as you continue to follow the developments in AI. And as always, thanks for joining me for this deep dive.
It's been great.
It has. I always enjoy our conversations. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already.
Yeah, help us get to 1,000 subscribers.
Let's make it happen. All right, until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep asking those big questions.
Absolutely.
Bye, everyone.
See you next time.